Students, this is lecture number 6 in molecular basis of inheritance. In the previous lecture, we have seen about the structure of DNA molecule, double helix model like that. Even I was telling you about packaging of DNA also. In prokaryotes, some proteins will be used for packing the DNA molecule because DNA molecule is longer than the size of the nucleus. So within the nucleus they have to be packed, means of course in prokaryotes there is no nucleus. There is no well-defined nucleus. So this DNA molecule will combine with some protein. They will become diffused thread-like structure. That is called nucleoid of the prokaryotes. But when we come to eukaryotes, there is well-defined nucleus present there. Inside the nucleus, chromosomes are there. In the chromosomes, DNA will be actually arranged. Of course, chromosomes are made up of DNA only. That DNA is negatively charged because of the presence of acidic group like that. And that negatively charged DNA molecule will wrap around a positively charged octamer of proteins, we are telling. Those octamers are called as histone octamer. Over that octamer, DNA will be wrapped around so that packaging will be possible. Such a group of or combination of octamer of histone plus DNA is called nucleoid. Nucleosome we are telling. Nucleosome it is called. Many such nucleosomes will be arranged like a beaded string-like structure, and that beaded string-like structure upon further condensation they become chromatin thread, we are telling. Chromatin thread will further undergo coiling and condensation. They will become chromatid actually. Chromatid will be visible, clearly visible during metaphase and anaphase stages of the chromosome. All such points we have seen in the previous lecture also. Even I was telling you about one more point called heteropyknosis. When we observe this chromosome, colored thread like how they become colored means by putting some stain. When we stain that chromosomes, they show differential coloring ability. In some areas they are darkly stainable, in some areas they are lightly stainable. Darkly stainable part of the chromatid is called, or chromatin is called heterochromatin. Lightly stainable area is called euchromatin, we can say. Heterochromatin will be having highly coiled DNA molecules, whereas in euchromatin there will be lightly coiled or less packed DNA. Heterochromatin is transcriptionally inactive, we have seen. Inactive in the sense what is that? They do not produce mRNA so quickly, so rapidly. But euchromatin is capable of producing mRNA quickly. That is called transcriptionally active, transcriptionally inactive, we can say. Okay. In this class, let me introduce another concept proposed by Crick actually. Watson and Crick in 1953 like that they proposed the DNA structure, double helix model. But at the same time they had the responsibility to show how their DNA model could work for transcription, replication, translation, everything. So they have to prove that this model is capable of performing all the activities of the DNA molecule. For that sake, Crick has proposed one idea for explaining the functioning of DNA. That functioning of DNA is explained by Crick's idea called central dogma of the life we are telling. Central dogma of life was proposed by Crick actually. Crick, and what is the meaning of this word central dogma? You know, dogma refers to unwritten or written code of contacts and conducts, we can say. Code of conduct For a particular religion, we have some dogmas. Every religion has got its own dogma. Like that, for living organism, there is a code of conduct, there is a written laws for this living organism also. That is how the living organisms behave by using the DNA as the genetic material. That's what we are going to see. What Crick told means DNA is the major, otherwise what is that master molecule for a cell actually. For any cell, DNA is the master molecule. That was the point told by Crick. And this DNA is able to undergo replication by itself. DNA molecule can undergo replication and it can produce another DNA molecule. That ability to produce its own copy is called replication, we are telling. That is one special ability of the DNA molecule. The same DNA will also be able to produce RNA or mRNA, we can say. RNA also we can write. All the three types of RNAs, they are produced from DNA only. This process of forming RNA from the DNA is called as transcription, we are telling. This idea, this process is called as transcription, remember. So DNA is able to produce its own copy as well as it is able to produce RNA also. It has got what is that dual function, we can say. It can undergo replication as well as transcription also. Because of transcription, we are getting mRNA or RNA molecule. Now listen, this RNA is giving information for protein synthesis. So, based upon RNA messenger RNA, that's why it is called. Based upon the message present in the RNA, ribosomes are able to produce proteins, remember. So, proteins are synthesized based on the message of mRNA. What is that message? It is called a genetic code, we are telling. In the mRNA, nucleotides are arranged in a specific manner. By studying that nucleotide sequence, amino acids will be arranged in the proteins. Remember this point. Proteins are made up of amino acids, whereas RNA is made up of nucleotides, we can say. So what we have to do here means this nucleotide language must be converted into amino acid language. Language of nucleotides must be converted into language of amino acid. That is called protein. Remember, this process of formation of or synthesis of protein depending upon the message given by mRNA is known as translation, we can say here. This process is called as translation, remember. So I am telling you three important steps with the help of DNA molecule. One is replication, another one is transcription, third one is translation. Because of during replication, a DNA molecule can produce its own copy. You have studied about S phase in the meiosis and all. During that S phase or interphase, the DNA will get doubled. We have seen in the previous lesson also, we have seen that. So that replication is possible from the DNA molecule. It can act as a parental molecule for synthesizing its own daughter molecule. Similarly, DNA is able to produce RNA also. That is called as a transcription. DNA is made up of nucleotide, deoxyribonucleotides, whereas RNA is also made up of nucleotides only. So here, nucleotide will be converted into nucleotide, only with slight differences. That is called the transcription, we are telling. But in translation, what happens? Language of nucleotide will be converted into language of amino acids called proteins. This is called translation. So replication, transcription and translation, are the three major dogmas of the life, we can say, or the whole process is called central dogma of the life. From where the dogma starts means from the DNA. So DNA is considered as the master molecule of a cell, we can say. So DNA, it is not only acting like a genetic material, that means transmitting the characters from parents to children like that. It is also involved in transcription, translation like that also. So when a DNA molecule is able to perform two major functions, one is called inheritance, another one is called dogma, transcription and translation. When it is able to perform two major events, it is known as a heterocatalytic molecule, we can say here. DNA is an example for heterocatalytic molecule. Why it is heterocatalytic? Because it is able to synthesize RNA and thereby protein. Indirectly, it helps for protein synthesis. Without RNA, protein cannot be synthesized. Without DNA, RNA cannot be synthesized. So it does transcription as well as inheritance also. Inheritance of character, it will produce daughter copy and give it to the next generation. That ability, when it performs two important functions, that ability is called heterocatalytic function. This heterocatalytic molecule is DNA, we can say. This is the idea proposed by Crick in order to explain how the DNA molecule can work in living organisms. How DNA can function in a living organism. Why it should be called as master molecule. For that he gave this dogma. But of course, later other scientists have proved the mechanism of replication. Some scientists have proved the idea, otherwise mechanism of transcription. And other scientists, they contributed for explaining the process of translation also. So, this is the correct dogma, and for any living organism, this is the biological dogma followed by a living system. Okay, just make note of this, we will continue further. Okay, students, let me go to the next aspect of molecular biology. Central dogma of life is many times asked in board exam. In 2-mark question also it can be asked, sometimes in 3-mark question, definitions and all you have to write, if it is asked in 3 marks. Okay. The next part of this lesson, next subtopic we are going to see in this chapter is the search for genetic material. We are telling the search for genetic material. Where to search this, how to say which is the genetic molecule, that is we are going to see here. The search for genetic material. Listen to me carefully. Actually, Mendel and Friedrich Miescher, these two are Friedrich Miescher, we can say. These two scientists, they are contemporaries actually. Contemporaries means around the year 1863-65 like that, in that time only, 1860s. Late 1860s, these two were working actually. Of course, in different countries, different nature of work they performed. Mendel gave some idea about pattern of inheritance. He believed that factors are responsible for transmitting the character. Of course, he could not tell what is that factor. That is okay. At the same time, Miescher discovered nuclein also. Nucleus of the cells are made up of some acidic or some molecule, special molecule. They do not resemble protein, lipid and all. They are something different, that is called nuclein, he believed. But later come other scientists. Very important contribution was provided by Sutton and Boveri, we have to recall here. Sutton and Boveri, already I told you, they proposed chromosomal theory of inheritance. What Sutton and Boveri told is, the factors proposed by Mendel behaves like the chromosomes behaving during mitosis and meiosis. So during mitosis and meiosis, chromosomes are undergoing segregation. They undergo independent assortment, recombination, everything. That is similar to the idea proposed by Mendel. So Mendel told about factors. Sutton and Boveri studied about chromosome behavior. Later they amalgamated that idea, proposed the chromosomal theory of inheritance. Not only it became a major part of searching for genetic material. So they zeroed that point to the chromosomes mainly. That searching for genetic material, searching for the factors ended with the chromosomes according to Sutton and Boveri's contribution. Not only this one, there was another important contribution made in the field of genetics and inheritance. It is given by T.H. Morgan, you may be remembering. Remember, T.H. Morgan, he studied about sex-linked inheritance in Drosophila melanogaster. We have seen this in the previous previous chapters. T.H. Morgan proved that the characters or the factors are located on the chromosome. That is proved by means of behavior of sex chromosome. Because easily we can detect the movement of sex chromosomes in a cell, X and Y. Autosomes means they will be similar to each other. But X and Y will be dissimilar in morphology. Easily they can be studied. Based on that, Morgan proved when we perform a reciprocal cross. What is reciprocal cross? By changing the sex of the parent, if you perform your hybridization experiment, result will also get changed. When? If they are located on the X chromosome. Of course, if they are located on autosome, no change will happen. Mendel studied about autosomal factors at that time. But Morgan, around 1900, he studied about sex-linked inheritance. Based on that, he gave some idea. So, scientists have come to a conclusion, chromosomes have the genetic material. But still, what is the chromosome and what it is made up of, how it can behave like a genetic material, that could not be proved by scientifically. So there are some 3 scientific experiments we are going to study in the search for genetic material. Each experiment is worth of 5 mark question, remember. So there are 3 experiments dealt in your textbook also, and those 3 experiments, how they prove that DNA is the genetic material, that we have to see. So from factors we came to nuclein, nuclein to chromosomes. Now in the chromosome, what makes the genetic material, that we have to see. For this, 3 experiments I told you. First experiment was done by a scientist called Frederick Griffith. Griffith experiment we are going to study here. A 5 mark question we can see here. Second experiment was done by McAvery. Okay. A scientist called Avery. He and his colleagues, they performed some experiment, and based on that they understood biochemical characterization of the genetic material. Biochemically, what that genetic material is made up of, that was decided by Avery and his colleagues and other group of scientists, we can say. Thirdly, there was another group of scientists, namely Hershey. Okay, Hershey and Chase we are telling. This Hershey and Chase experiment finally gave a good evidence that DNA is the genetic material. So try to understand that history I am talking here. Even though in 1860s itself we studied about factors, nuclein, everything. This role of chromosomes were proposed in 1900 in that range only. Morgan did his experiment in 1902 like that. Later, around the year 1920s, the search for genetic material began, and they started to study about chromosomes intensively. From the chromosome, they came to the study of chromosomes. They came to a conclusion that DNA is the genetic material. So 3 experiments we are going to recall or study here in order to find out the genetic material. Let me come to these 3 experiments. First we will start with the Griffith experiment. Just a few seconds, finish it. Students, let me start with the Griffith experiment as a method of searching for genetic material. An important 5-mark question, often asked in board exam actually. So I am going to deal with Griffith experiment. Remember, this Griffith experiment, Frederick Griffith, this experiment is also called as Griffith transforming principle. It can be called transforming principle. The experiment with reference to transforming principle we are going to study here. Very important, slightly complicated, try to listen carefully. Frederick Griffith, he studied about a bacterium in his experiment. The name of that bacterium is called Streptococcus. Streptococcus pneumonia, it can be called. Streptococcus pneumoniae bacterium, that is studied by Griffith actually. This bacterium is otherwise known as pneumococcus bacterium also. Pneumococcus. Coccus, you may be remembering this word. Cocci-coccus refers to spherical shaped bacteria. The bacterium which causes pneumonia, a lung disorder or a respiratory disorder, is known as pneumonia. The bacterium which infects our body or mammalian body and cause respiratory infection is known as Streptococcus pneumoniae. This Streptococcus pneumonia is a bacterium, remember. What is the experiment done by Griffith? With the help of this bacteria, we have to see. Remember, Griffith came across 2 types of bacteria when he cultured them in the laboratory medium. He took some nutrient medium. There he cultured Streptococcus pneumonia actually. With all precautions and everything, he cultured the bacteria. In Streptococcus pneumonia, there were 2 strains observed by Griffith actually. 2 strains we are telling. Strain means types we can call. So two types of Streptococcus bacteria were discovered or were be found in the medium, nutrient medium. The first type is known as R strain, it can be called. What is the meaning of this word R strain means? The R strain is otherwise known as rough strain, it can be called. Rough means, what is the meaning of this word rough means? They had outer covering or capsule for this bacteria, which is somewhat rough in nature actually. There was no extra, what is that, smooth covering, smooth layer present over it. So it is called a rough strain, it can be called. Second type of strain observed by Griffith was S strain, we can say here. S strain. So in pneumococcus, there are two types. One is S strain, another one is R strain. S strain is otherwise known as smooth strain, it can be called. From the name itself, we can understand. The smooth strain had got a smooth capsule outside it. It will produce a polysaccharide which will surround that cell wall and it will become a smooth capsule outside. So this bacteria, S bacteria, will be looking smooth and they will be glistening also. Due to the presence of that special polysaccharide, they will be glistening in nature. Whereas this one is a rough strain, we can say. So in a bacteria, in that culture plate, if you observe means, some of them are not shiny, but some of them are shiny in nature. That shining bacteria is called a smooth bacteria due to the presence of a polysaccharide. Here there is no such extra polysaccharide present. Okay. What is the difference between any other difference between rough and smooth means? One important point is rough strain is non-virulent in nature. Non-virulent. Non-virulent means it will not cause any pneumonia to the mammals. It will not cause disease. No disease will be caused by this bacteria. It is harmless, it is non-virulent, non-pathogenic or non-poisonous, we can say. So it is non-virulent, no disease will be caused. Which disease? Pneumonia disease. Only in the name it is rough, but it is not causing any disease. Remember it. But a smooth bacteria, it is virulent in nature. It is virulent in nature. That means if this bacteria infect a host or any mammal body, or if this is injected into any mammal body, it will cause pneumonia, it will affect their lungs actually. So this will cause disease. Disease is caused by which bacterium? S strain. But R strain does not cause disease. That is the main difference between R and S strain. You got the basic idea about Streptococcus pneumonia. Now let us come to the experimental part with Griffith. What this Griffith did with this R strain and F strain, I am going to explain. Just a recall. 2 seconds. I will continue. Okay, students, listen to me. What is the experiment performed by Griffith with reference to pneumococcus bacterium? He did some series of experiments, chain of experiments with related to this pneumococcus bacterium. The first point we have to remember here is when R strain is injected into the mice, mice is a mammal to that mammal, R strain is injected. It did not cause disease. Mice survived. Okay, mice survived. That is the observation made in the first step. Second experiment done by Griffith is when a S strain is injected into the mice. Again, S strain is injected into another mice or another group of mice, we can say. When S strain is injected into the mice, that mice developed disease, pneumonia, and it died actually. So the mice died. This becomes another observation. This already we have seen. That's why this is called non-virulent, this strain is called virulent. Third experiment done by Griffith has some significance. What did that means? He took some S strain and he subjected that bacteria for some heat shock he subjected. Some temperature was increased in the medium so that this S strain got killed. Remember, such a strain of bacteria got killed by heat is known as heat killed S strain, it can be called. Heat killed S bacteria or smooth bacteria was taken for the third experiment. HKS means heat killed S bacteria. He did not take a direct S bacteria, he is smooth bacteria, he subjected for it for heat and it has become heat killed S strain. HK refers to heat killed, not Hyderabad, Karnataka. Okay? This is HKS strain. This HKS strain is injected into the mice again. Now, what happened means, when the heat killed S strain is injected into the mice survived actually. The mice did not die, it has become survived and it is alive actually. So when HKS strain is injected into the mice, it did not develop any disease and it survived. So here also alive, here also alive. What conclusion we can come here? When we kill the S type, it is losing its virulent ability. It is not able to cause disease and the mice survives actually. Okay. When same S strain is directly injected, mice died. When the S strain is heated, then injected, mice survived. Okay. Let us come to the fourth and very important experiment, a conclusive experiment we are going to study here. In the next set of experiment, what Griffith did means, he took some R strain, rough strain he took, then he joined them with heat killed S strain also. He mixed them in the medium, he mixed this R strain and HKS, that means heat killed S strain. This mixture was injected into the mice this time. Injected into mice. Try to get this point. R strain is unable to produce disease. Heat killed S type is also unable to produce disease. Mice will survive. It will not be affected by pneumonia. When we inject this mixture R and HKS together, we expect that mice should survive. Is it or not? It should not. They should not. They are independently not able to cause disease. Neither R strain nor HKS strain can cause disease independently. But when they mixed together, when that mixture is injected into the mice died. Surprisingly, mice died due to the disease actually. Try to get this point. Rough strain, no disease. Smooth strain, disease. This is virulent, this is non-virulent. When smooth strain is killed by heat, no disease. When the mixture of R and HKS is done, it is becoming diseased actually. What is happening? What Griffith did means, he collected the blood of these dead mice from the fourth experiment. From the blood and other tissues, he collected those tissues and blood from these dead mice, and he found that there was S strain alive present in the body of that dead mice. Try to get this important point. When he extracted the tissues and blood of these mice, he found that these mice was made up of living S strain in their body. Heat killed S strain have become living S strain. How is it possible? This is the experimental proof. We have to explain the point now here. What Griffith told for this conclusion means, he believed that something must have been transmitted from the R strain to HKS strain, so that, otherwise, I am sorry, I am very 1 minute. This is a dead bacterium, it is already killed. This is living R strain. Something must have been transmitted from the dead bacterium to the living R strain. There must be something which has entered from the dead to R bacterium, dead bacterium to R bacterium, as if some ghost has entered into a living person's body. This something must have been entering in from the heat killed S type, dead S type to the R type, so that because of the transfer, R type has become virulent and it has become S strain, he believed. Griffith told that R strain is independently non-virulent, but it has been converted into virulent S strain. How? Because of some transfer. What is that transferred means? He could not tell it. What went or what entered into R strain from HKS, he could not tell. So what he did means, he named this process of conversion of a non-virulent R strain into virulent S strain as transformation. Try to get this point. What is transformation? It is changing. Transformation means changing, modifying. We transformed into something means it has been modified, changed. Some transformation, mentally it could happen, physically it could happen. Something like that. Transformation has happened into the R type. So what happened due to the transformation? R type has become S type. It has become virulent. It caused disease. Mice died due to that disease. So that R type only has become the S type because of a process called what? Transformation. How it has been transferred means this R type produced smooth polysaccharide covering outside it, so that a rough covering has become smooth covering and virulent, non-virulent has become virulent. But what has transformed, what has been transferred from the HKS to R type, he could not tell. So he named that substance as transforming principle. He told that material as transforming principle. Something called transforming principle has moved from HKS to R type, so that R type has become S type, it has become virulent in nature. This is the first and simple experiment proposed by Griffith. In the year 1928, he did this experiment. Because of this, what we can understand? Some material could transfer from one organism to its own one bacteria to another bacteria. That material is called transforming principle. That is the first step for the searching for genetic material, we can see. Okay, this is the Griffith experiment. Let me repeat it here, listen to me. In 1928, Griffith did some work in Streptococcus pneumonia bacterium. this bacterium has got two types, two strains in it. One is called R strain, another one is called S strain. R strain has got a rough capsule, S strain has got a smooth capsule due to the presence of what is that some polysaccharide over the covering. Now, when R strain is injected into the mice survived, it did not cause any disease. So we can say that R strain is non-virulent, we can say here. It is non-virulent strain. When S strain is injected into mice, the mice died due to pneumonia. So we can say that S strain is virulent in nature. It is virulent. Do you get this point? Virulent means pathogenic. It will cause disease and mice died. When the same S strain is taken or S strain is taken, when they are killed by heat, that is called heat killed S strain, or it has become a dead bacteria. When that heat killed S strain is injected into mice, the mice survived. It did not get any disease. So what Griffith did in a fourth set of experiment means, he took a mixture of R strain and HKS strain. Remember the important point, neither R strain nor HKS strain can cause disease independently. Independently they are non-pathogenic. But when the mixture is injected into the mice died. For this, what Griffith did means, from the dead mice, he collected the tissues and blood, everything, and he found in those dead tissues S strain bacteria, alive bacteria in that dead mice. So he came to a conclusion, from the dead he killed S type, something must have gone into the R type, so that non-virulent R type became virulent S type. Non-pathogenic R type has become pathogenic S type. That is why it has caused disease. This phenomenon is called transformation. What is transformation? Conversion of a non-virulent bacteria into a virulent bacteria is called transformation. How this transformation happened? Who went from HKS to R type? That was not told by Griffith. He simply believed that there must be some transforming principle. That transforming principle moves from HKS type to R type, so that R type has undergone transformation. Of course, he could not tell that it is the genetic material. Just like Mendel believed about factor, Griffith told that there is a transforming principle. Let us go to the next set of experiment, where this same transforming principles were taken by some other scientist, and they understood about biochemical characterization of those experiments. Let us go to the experiment, second set of experiment in the next class. Remember students, it is a 5-mark question, Griffith experiment about transformation and transforming principle. What is the type of organism studied by Griffith? It is a bacterium. Name of that bacterium is called Streptococcus pneumonia. It is pathogenic. It will cause pneumonia disease including human beings. Okay. But he studied in the mice actually. Okay, let me complete with this. We will continue in the next class.